I wasn't very interested in seeing The Wild Bunch back when it was released in 1969. I was 16 years old and I loved Westerns, but reading the poster, I thought, all these guys, they're old guys. Big stars, to be sure, back in the 50s when I was a kid. But now, with the 60s and new stars like McQueen and Newman, not to mention the British invasion of all those new movie stars, well, those old guys seem suddenly past it. And then right before the movie opened, Robert Culp went on the Joey Bishop show to plug Bob Carroll, Ted, and Alice, but he didn't want to talk about his own movies. He said he was too stoned, and Joey said, "That's terrible. Who stoned you?" It was funny, and the audience laughed. But Culp wasn't laughing. He said he was stoned because he had just seen a movie that he couldn't get out of his head. That movie was The Wild Bunch. The morning after the movie opened, I read Vincent Canby's review in the New York Times. And because of that review, I headed downtown where it was playing at the Translux West, a small theater in the Broadway district. I sat through the movie twice, back to back. Not unusual in those days, even in a midtown movie theater, except, of course, if it was a roadshow attraction, which this wasn't. What it was brilliant. Even a pimple-faced teenager like me could see that. What I didn't expect was to be moved. These guys were bad guys, all right, and yet we feel it when they get it in the end. And those old-timey movie stars, well, they brought the story to life because it's about old guys who are past it and looking for one last score, and ultimately one last shot at redemption as time closes in on them. And damn, if those old guys didn't pull it off. Many of them giving career best performances, Robert Ryan in particular. I never appreciated Robert Ryan until I saw him in The Wild Bunch. I had never seen his early noirs or westerns. To me, he was just a guest star type of actor who was always turning up in movies like The Longest Day or The Dirty Dozen or The Battle of the Bulge. You know, actors like Edmund O'Brien, who's also in The Wild Bunch, and who also turns in an amazing performance. In the 50s, William Holden was a big star, an Oscar winner with some great movies under his belt. But by the time he took on the role of Pike Bishop, his hard living had taken its toll, but he made it work for the part. His Pike Bishop is the leader of the bunch. He's still leather tough, in fact, even ruthless. Ernest Borgnine also won his Oscar in the 50s, but unlike Holden, he was never a leading man, just one of the busiest character actors of all time. And then there's the great Warren Oates. I had been following him ever since he was a character on Stony Burke, an early 60s TV show starring Jack Lord. He's like the goofy kid from the neighborhood that stole pennies from your mama's purse. Not his mama, your mama. And he damn near steals the Wild Bunch out from under the noses of those Oscar-winning actors. His Lyle Gorch is a wonder. He's both stupid and sly, funny but deadly, sometimes all at once. And when he gets on that machine gun during the final battle and screams as he fires while dancing into death, it's a primordial image. Ben Johnson plays Lyle's brother Tector. Johnson was an old-timey pro who had worked with everyone by then. John Ford, John Wayne, Marlon Brando, Mighty Joe Young. He was an old hand when it came to playing these kind of parts, and he won his Oscar with The Last Picture Show. Edmund O'Brien started out in the 30s with films like The Hunchback of Notre Dame. In the 40s, he did his time in noir with The Killers and DOA, just to name two. In the 50s, he's Winston Smith in 1984. But in The Wild Bunch, he really cuts loose, and it's clear he's having fun with the part. They? Who the hell is they? Jamie Sanchez was the new kid on the block. I had seen him in Sidney Lumet's The Pawnbroker, but sadly, not much else after The Wild Bunch. The issue of violence in movies has always been a concern for Hollywood, but it was growing steadily throughout the 60s until it exploded when Bonnie and Clyde took it to another level. Faced with a barrage of criticism when The Wild Bunch was released 2 years later, Sam Peckinpah said he wanted to show violence as it really was. He didn't. That was just a sob to the critics. The violence was still movie special effects like squibs and slow motion, but Peckinpah turned it into a ballet set in hell, which left director George Roy Hill in a bit of a pickle when it came time to shoot the Bolivian bandit massacre scene in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. The director was stuck with the dilemma of having to use slow motion, which was fast becoming a cliche, so he tried other things like multiple dissolves, but it didn't work, and in the end, he had to use the slow motion. Ultimately, it worked, and the scene still holds up today. Butch Cassidy is the flip side of the Wild Bunch. It's basically the same story, but with a different tonality, and it's a great entertainment. The Wild Bunch is a masterpiece. It both shocks and excites us at the same time, and I wonder if they knew it when they were making it. Or was it just another movie to some of those old-timey actors? It sure wasn't for Sam Peckinpah. It's the film he's most remembered for, and for good reason. All of his passions, good, bad, and ugly, are up there on the screen, and by the end, you're floored by it. Not just by the violence, but by the sense of loss. And that is the movie's main theme: time. Time is running out for the bunch, and they know it. They have to start thinking beyond their guns. It's easy to say that the violence in the Wild Bunch is nothing compared to what we see in movies today. And while that's true, it's a development that doesn't make me smile or warm my heart. Yes, The Wild Bunch is a masterpiece, but it's not a movie I watch anymore because it really is a ride into the lower depths. And when you get to be a certain age, it really is contemplating the flowers in the sky. Like that. Movie gunfights don't interest me much anymore because I get to hear the real thing right outside my window, down the street, or maybe it's just the fireworks from Chavez Ravine. See you around the campus.